I always thought if death came, it would feel loud. Sirens, panic, a final scream or gasp. But not this. Not the silence. It started on a Thursday. Just a regular day in Portland. The rain had tapped against the windows all morning like it always does, and I was working from my small one-bedroom apartment in the Alphabet District. I was editing a pitch deck for some tech startup I didn't care about, sipping my third cold brew, and scrolling through Instagram reels between emails, searching for, what? Dopamine? Distraction? I was 28, but lately I felt older. Not wiser, just worn out. That evening, I took a long shower. The kind where the steam makes the mirror cry and the world outside disappears. I wrapped myself in a towel, sat on the edge of my bed, and opened the familiar folder on my phone. The one I always regretted afterward. You know, the one. I don't need to spell it out. It wasn't about lust. Not really. It was about control. Or comfort. Or the illusion of it. And after, that emptiness crept in again, like a fog rolling in under the door. Heavier this time. I found myself on the floor of my bathroom, hugging my knees, my towel damp and cold now. I couldn't breathe right. My chest was collapsing in on itself. I thought it was a panic attack. I've had them before. But this was different. This one took me. I don't remember the moment it happened, but I left. I know I did. Because suddenly, I wasn't in my bathroom anymore. I wasn't anywhere. I was in the quiet. That's the only word I have for it. Imagine being suspended in ink that thinks. Not darkness, but a thinking silence. A presence in the void. There was no up, no down. Just me, without my body, without my name, but somehow more me than ever. Time didn't pass. It stretched. Or folded. Or maybe it shattered. And then, I felt him. No footsteps. No sound. But a sudden knowing. A presence that made everything inside me still. Not fear exactly, but awe so raw it hurt. I didn't see him the way you'd see a man, but I knew. He was Jesus. Not a symbol. Not a character from Sunday school coloring books. Not the sanitized, blonde-haired Messiah from Western art. He was light. Dense, living light. And the moment his attention turned toward me, I felt everything inside me open like a wound under a floodlight. Every secret. Every moment I had ever whispered, it's not a big deal to myself, he saw it. And he loved me. Not in the way we throw that word around. This was different. This love knew every lie I had told. Every time I had reached for comfort in the wrong places. Every time I chose numbness over prayer. And still, it held me. Fiercely. Painfully. Then he spoke. Not aloud. The words were inside me, vibrating like the memory of a thunderstorm. You are lost, but not forsaken. My spirit trembled. You feed the void with acts that starve you. You think you find release, but it is bondage. You reach for shadows and call it intimacy. But I am the one who made you, and I did not design you for chains. I wanted to cry, but I had no eyes. I wanted to run, but I had no feet. There was nowhere to go. Only him, and the truth I had hidden even from myself. Masturbation is not harmless when it replaces me. The word hit like a bell ringing in the hollow of my soul. Not judgmental. Just final. You do not sin because you are evil. You sin because you are hungry, and no one ever taught you to come to me to eat. I fell. Not physically, but spiritually. Collapsed into grief. Into understanding. Into conviction. And that's when I started to remember. The prayers I used to say as a child. The quiet ones. Whispered under my breath when I was afraid of the dark. I remembered what it felt like to believe he was listening. I hadn't prayed in months. Maybe years. Then the light began to dim. No, please stay, I begged, though I had no voice. I never leave. But you must choose. And with that, the quiet collapsed in on itself, and I was gasping on my bathroom floor. Cold. Alive. Changed. But not yet saved. That night, I didn't go back to my phone. I didn't go back to sleep. I knelt beside my bed, shaking, unsure, and completely undone, and I whispered the first real prayer I'd said in a long time. Jesus, are you still here? I didn't hear an answer. But I felt it. I didn't tell anyone what happened. How do you even begin to explain something like that? Hey, so, I think I left my body and saw Jesus in a sentient void of light and silence. He told me masturbation was a spiritual wound. People would either laugh or call someone. But I couldn't laugh. The moment never left me. It didn't fade like a dream. It stayed, like a hand pressing gently, but firmly, against my chest. A pressure that whispered, "Don't forget." The next morning, everything felt too loud. The sun was too sharp. My phone buzzed like a curse. People on the street seemed hollow, like wind-up toys, laughing at jokes no one actually found funny. I went to a coffee shop near Burnside to try to reset. That's what people say when they don't want to deal with their souls. Reset. I ordered a cappuccino and stared out the window at a couple arguing in hushed tones. Their body language was all pain. Her arms folded, his jaw clenched, but their faces wore smiles for the public. I felt like I could see beneath the performance. Like something in me had been tuned to a different frequency. That's when it began. The hunger. Not the kind that sits in your stomach. No, this was deeper. Subtler. A hollow echo inside my spirit, like an ache behind a wall. And with it, a whisper. Soft. Suggestive. Familiar. You need release. Just once. It's not a big deal. You've been strong. Just a little comfort. The voice wasn't mine, but it used my tone. It knew my reasoning. It sounded like me, but twisted. I left the coffee shop early. Back home, the shadows in my apartment felt heavier. The corners looked sharper. I turned on all the lights, played worship music softly from my phone like background incense. I tried to pray, but the words felt dry. It's funny how easily we can have an encounter with God one night and then doubt it the next. The flesh doesn't die quietly. It claws. I opened my Bible, the one I hadn't touched in over a year. The pages felt stiff, like they resented being ignored. I flipped aimlessly, hoping, searching. My eyes landed on Matthew 6 verses 22 to 23. The eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eyes are unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light within you is darkness, how great is that darkness? Something in me shivered. I closed the Bible and sat in silence. The room began to hum. Not with sound, but with a weight. The same weight I had felt in the quiet, except now, it was dimmer. Distorted. Like a memory turned sour. Then I saw it. Not with my eyes, but in my spirit. In the corner of my room stood a figure. Not a demon. Not in the cartoonish Hollywood sense. But a presence. Shapeless. Almost like a stain in the air. It pulsed. And I knew, deep in my bones, this was the thing I'd been feeding. The thing behind the habit. Behind the hunger. I hadn't created it, but I had invited it. And it knew I'd seen the light. That made me dangerous. I began to whisper, "Jesus. Jesus. Jesus." The shadow didn't move. But it listened. Like it was waiting. Testing. And then it spoke, not aloud, but in thought, oily and intimate. "You can pray, but you'll come back. They all do. You need me." I fell to my knees. Not because I was strong, but because I was done. The fear, the shame, the loneliness, it all broke open at once. "God, I can't fight this," I whispered. "I can't do this alone. If you're still here, if that was really you, please, don't leave me." Not again. Silence. Then peace. Not loud. Not overwhelming. Just peace. Gentle. Firm. Like the whisper of a father who waits while the storm inside you calms down. And the shadow faded. Not vanished. But retreated. Like it knew it had lost this round. I curled up on the floor and cried until my voice gave out. Not out of sadness, but relief. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't numb. I was awake. People think the hard part is the fall. But the hardest part is what comes after, when you try to live changed in a world that stayed the same. I started waking up early, reading the Bible, praying. Not performatively, not in some rigid routine. More like breathing again. I'd make coffee, wrap myself in a blanket, sit by the window and whisper, "I'm still here. Are you?" And every morning he was. Not in visions or voices, but in small things. In the way light fell through the blinds. In a verse that felt written for me. In the silence that no longer felt empty. But the war didn't stop. No one tells you how tempting your old prison can look once you've been free for a few days. It's like your soul develops amnesia for pain, but perfect recall for pleasure. That first week, I stayed strong. I deleted apps. I removed certain bookmarks. I even bought a physical Bible to avoid distractions. I found a church in Southeast Portland, a small one with dusty pews and real prayer. No stage lights, just trembling voices and honest people. But on day 9, it hit again. The whisper. I'd had a long day. A meeting went bad. My car broke down on 82nd Street, and I hadn't heard back from my sister in weeks. I felt hollow, tired, human. That's when the suggestion came. Not a voice. A nudge. You're just stressed. It's not sin, it's self-soothing. God understands. You've done well. Just once won't undo everything. I sat on the edge of my bed and stared at the floor. My Bible was on the nightstand. My phone was in my hand. And between them, I felt the weight of eternity. That's not dramatic. That's real. Because in that moment, I knew. This wasn't just about pleasure. This was a choice of lordship. Who do I run to when I'm empty? I dropped the phone and picked up the Bible. It fell open to Psalm 73. Whom have I in heaven but you? And earth has nothing I desire besides you. My flesh and my heart may fail, but God is the strength of my heart, and my portion forever. Tears. Real, silent tears. I whispered, God, I want you more than this. Even if I don't feel it yet, teach me. Please. That night, I dreamed. I stood in a massive cathedral. Empty. The walls were cracked. The stained glass shattered. Wind howled through broken arches. And in the center of the room stood 2 altars. One was ancient stone, plain and sacred. The other was golden, gleaming, seductive, covered in mirrors. But the mirrors were cracked. And in every reflection, I saw myself, but distorted, crying, reaching, dying. A voice echoed, not his, but my own. Which God will you feed? I turned toward the stone altar and knelt. Suddenly, light poured in from above. The broken glass caught it like fire. And I heard him, not a booming shout, but a gentle call. This is the way back. Not through shame, but through me. I woke up shaking, heart pounding, but smiling. The next morning, I prayed for the longest time yet. Not because I had to, but because I could not. I was hungry for him. Really hungry. And he fed me. Not with feelings. Not with fireworks. But with peace. With presence. The temptation didn't disappear. The shadows still waited, quiet and patient. But now I knew it wasn't stronger than my Savior. It never had been. I used to think deliverance was a moment. A single battle, one with one prayer and a dramatic encounter. But now I know real freedom is not one victory. It's 1,000 small surrenders. Every day, every hour. And it always begins at the altar. Not the one in my dreams. The real one. The altar in the heart. Weeks passed. The temptations didn't vanish. They changed. Evolved. Grew subtle. Sometimes they came as thoughts, you're doing great, God's probably proud. You've earned rest. Just one night. Sometimes they came as images, flashes in memory, scenes I thought I'd deleted forever. Sometimes they came through people, friends who laughed off purity, who treated the soul like it was just another appetite to manage. But the more I prayed, the clearer things became. This wasn't about sex. This was about worship. Because every time I bowed to that habit, I was giving my soul to a false god. The god of self. The god of sensation. The god of escape. And that god doesn't love. It consumes. One morning, I woke up just before dawn. I hadn't had any visions or dreams in days. I felt still. No fireworks. No spiritual high. Just stillness. I went to the park near my apartment, Washington Park. It was barely light. Mist clung to the branches like breath on glass. And in that quiet, I sat beneath a tree and whispered, God, am I really different now? Or am I just distracted again? I waited. The breeze stirred the leaves. A single bird called somewhere in the trees. And then I felt him. Not a vision. Not a voice. Just presence. Quiet. Steady. Unchanging. You are becoming. Every no you speak to the flesh is a yes to me. Every prayer is a stone in the altar. Don't measure freedom by your feelings. Measure it by your faithfulness. I sat there, tears sliding down my cheeks, grateful. Not because the fight was over, but because I wasn't alone in it. I looked up through the trees and imagined the garden where Jesus prayed, where he sweat blood in silence, where he said, Not my will, but yours be done. That's what this is, isn't it? Deliverance isn't fireworks. It's a garden. A place of decision. A place where you die to yourself one day at a time. That day, I went home and deleted everything for good. Not just apps, but old messages, hidden folders, anything that tethered me to the past. I wrote a prayer and taped it to my wall. God, if I fall, let it be toward you. Let every failure become a cry. I don't want perfection. I want you. That was 6 months ago. I still fight, but I'm no longer alone in the ring. Jesus didn't come to shame me out of sin. He came to lead me out. With mercy. With truth. With love that doesn't flinch at darkness. And now I want to say this to you, whoever you are reading this. If you're caught in something that owns your quiet moments, that follows you in the dark, that pretends to soothe but slowly devours, you are not beyond rescue. You don't need to clean yourself up before coming to him. You just have to turn. Whisper his name. Say, Jesus, I'm tired. I don't know how to stop. But I believe you can carry me. And he will. Not with lightning. Not with noise. But with presence. And peace. And step by step, he will teach you how to build an altar in the ruins. How to pray in the silence. How to hunger for something holy. Because he's not just trying to make you behave. He's trying to make you alive.